Welcome back, everybody. This is Pucks from the Pine Tree Pod. I'm your host, Benjamin Kennedy, coming to you here Sunday evening. Hope everybody had a lovely weekend out there. Just wrapping my weekend up with my little guy. Had a super busy weekend with him. A lot of fun. Hot Wheels monster truck show on Saturday. Before that, his last thing of soccer. He loved the monster truck show. He was just kind of in awe for a good like hour and a half. It was a lot of fun. And then we had a bounce house birthday party today for one of his friends. So he is back with his mom tonight. But wonderful weekend with him, and just in case anybody picks up on anything on this video, if you've been watching it for a while, Sunday nights are not always my favorite because he does it does go back to his mom's, and um, it's usually very hard for me. I usually do a very good job of uh, not letting it bother me or just kind of dive into work or dive into more hockey stuff. But tonight's been a little bit more challenging for me for whatever reason. So yeah, sucks. Divorce sucks. Uh, Splitting childcare sucks. It all sucks. But what doesn't suck, which is our topic of tonight, the Dallas Stars. So we are going to dive into the Dallas Stars. And yes, I know I've already done my kind of season predictions, but I do still have these four teams to give a full on preview for. I did not want to skip these four of the very best teams in the league. Starting here with Dallas tonight. Let's talk about Pete DeBoer, head coach of 1,179 games in the NHL, has a 612, 421, and 146 record. It's a 581 winning percentage and an 88 and 73 record in the playoffs. So, plus 15 in the playoffs is pretty darn good. Of course, is coached in Florida, New Jersey, San Jose, Vegas, and of course, currently here with Dallas, and has been to the Cup final two different occasions in 2011 and 12 with New Jersey, and in the 15-16 season there with San Jose. So, coach with a ton of experience. I've always liked him as a coach. Um, I know that he seems to not stay any place for too terribly long, but has been in the league for a very long time. And um, always think he's just done a great job. And that winning percentage will tell you the story there. Salary cap, of course, a lot of these salary caps have shifted over the past couple of days as players are going through waivers and being sent down to the AHL affiliates. But Dallas right now is sitting at 1.47 million under the cap. And according to Puckpedia tonight, they still have one active roster spot to fill, so they do have that little bit of wiggle room to bring in a minimum, 775 player or somebody right around that $1 million mark and be cap compliant for the start of the season. First round this year, they did have pick number 29. They take forward Emil Hemming, 18-year-old Finnish player. Uh, See what happens with him. But again, 18, just temper your expectations, might be a few years. But overall, I think a good solid prospect to put into their system, which is a typically a very, very good system. Going back to last season, record of 52, 21, and 9. 113 points, first in that Central Division, and as we remember, lost in that Western Conference Final to the Edmonton Oilers. So a tough loss for them. They went out and made the Tanev trade. Didn't pay off for them overall, but and we'll get into it a little bit. They had a year where some of their better offensive players had a down year. They still 113 points. Still were right there at the end as one of the top four teams in the league. Looking at those team stats, last season they were third in the league in goals for on average at 3.59. Goals against, they were at a 2.83. That was good for eight, and they were at plus 62 in the goal differential. Power play, they were sixth in the league at 24.2%. And the PK, just as good, eighth in the league at 82%. And they were number two in the faceoff circle. So very deep down the middle at 54%. Taking a quick look at their core skaters, course forward Jason Robertson played in 82 games, 29 goals, 51 assists for 80 points. So you want to see more out of him. You expect more out of him. I imagine you get more out of Robertson this year. I had him in fantasy last year and was I think he was my first round pick, kind of late in that first round for me, and was not too happy with that pick. Forward Wyatt Johnston, emerging player, younger guy, but did play in 82 games last season, 32 goals, 33 assists, 65 points. I think the sky is the absolute limit for this kid. I expect 40 goals out of him, if not this year. Next year, I think he'll be right around it this year, though, and I expect those points to go up. He should be a over point per player, uh, guy this season for the team. Ford Rope Hintz, 80 games played, had 30 goals, 35 assists for 65 points. Old friend Tyler Sagan, 68 games for him, 25 goals, 27 assists for 52 points. One of the veteran guys on this team, and kind of emerged a little bit more last season. I thought he had a decent year for himself. One of those old Boston Bruins trades that we just kind of shake our heads at, right? Forward Matt Duchene, 80 games played for him, 25 goals, 40 assists for 65 points. Forward Jamie Benn, 82 games for him, 21 goals, 39 assists for 60 points. And defenseman Miro Heiskanen, 71 games, 9 goals, 45 assists for 54 points. So what I do like here is, outside of really Sagan and Heiskanen there at the end, you had 82 out of Robertson, 82 games out of Johnson, 80 out of Hintz, 80 out of Duchesne, 82 out of Ben. Like these guys are pretty durable, right? They didn't miss a whole lot of games there. So I think that just that consistency of their top tier players in their lineup being out there really means a lot. Another really good story for them in net. Jake Oettinger, one of the best goalies in the game, 54 games played last season, had a 35, 14, and 4 record, 2.72 goals against, and a 905 save percentage. So just lights out for him. I look at him very much like I look at a Thatcher Demko up in Vancouver, where he is so valuable to this team. Not to say they don't have good talent in and around that team, but they really need him. They really need him to be good. They need him to be healthy. And he's, again, one of those younger goaltenders, could very well be a top five goaltender in this league. Additions for the year, talking about goaltending, Casey DeSmith comes over to be that backup for Ottinger. And then we get into some additions on the blue line, which we'll talk deeper about here in just a moment. But they do pick up defenseman Brendan Smith, defenseman Matt Dumba, and defenseman Ilya Lyubushkin coming over from Toronto. They also just recently signed goalie Magnus Hellberg and forward Colin Blackwell as well, joining the team. Departures out the door, defenseman Ryan Suter. A lot of talk that he might retire. I do think he ends up in St. Louis. Forward Ty Delandria, of course, defenseman Chris Tanev going up there to Toronto. Forward Craig Smith off to Chicago. Goalie Scott Wedgwood. Defenseman Yanni Hakanpää, I believe, also going off to Toronto. Forward Radka Faksa. And, of course, Joe Pavelski retiring this season after a wonderful career. Uh, Potentially Hall of Fame career. I mean, that might be its own video. Is he a Hall of Famer? Is he not? I think he is a Hall of Famer for some people. I think for others, he's very much not. But um, I think the fact that we're having that conversation about a Joe Pavelski is pretty impressive because he was a smaller guy. He was a later pick. I want to say, and I don't have it in front of me, and I apologize for that. I want to say he was like a sixth or seventh round draft pick all those years ago. So when you have a guy like that was drafted late, kind of undersized, and has the kind of career that he had between San Jose and Dallas, it's worthy to talk about for sure. And last season, played in 82 games, 27 goals, 40 assists, 67 points. I didn't mention him in, of course, skaters, of course, because he's gone, but had a real solid season for himself. And when you think about that loss of the production, you think about the loss of leadership and what he brought to the table. They're going to miss that. I think it's in the room though to replace it. I do, but that's going to be a key loss for them. And you wonder early on how they deal with it. Who kind of picks up the slack leadership wise? I think the team will be fine, but it's certainly a loss worth noting. Another thing to keep in mind this year with this team is that revamped defense. Of course, they do return Harley and Lindell and Heiskanen. But again, as we just mentioned, adding Smith, adding Dumba, adding Labushkin is enough. You'll lose Tana, which was the big loss in my opinion. The guy, you picked up at the deadline a year ago. I really liked Chris Tanev a lot. I think they probably wanted to hang on to him. I imagine they did. Um, but that number was going to get up there in that free agency, and he's out the door. So I do think that's one area where maybe you look at this Dallas team and say that it might be an area they try to shore up as you get closer to the trade deadline. Um, but I think that they did a fair job anyway in going out and kind of rebuilding that line, revamping it a little bit, and it's solid, right? I mean, nothing wrong with Brendan Smith, but nothing wrong with Dumba, Labushkin, again, nothing wrong with these more bottom six type guys, but all veteran guys, all responsible type players. You could do a heck of a lot worse, and I think with what you lost and what you brought back, yeah, again, I think you did an okay job. Again, could be a spot where if you're Dallas, you look to improve that as you go throughout the year. But what I love about this team, what really makes Dallas stand out is how they've kind of the last 2 and 3 years, they've had this really nice mix of veterans and kind of young emerging stars that have been able to come up through at the same time and not be kind of held back because of the veterans that are out there. This is how you really build a team and never have to go through like a full retool or rebuild where you just have enough young guys coming in, enough veterans that are still in their prime, and you just kind of mix it all together. When you have guys like Jamie Benn and Sagan and Pavelski, and you add in Matt Duchene, and then you kind of intermix those guys with kind of the still young but maybe more veteran guys of like a Jason Robertson and Robe Hintz, and then you bring in guys like Wyatt Johnston. Now you have Maverick Bork, Logan Stankoven, Liam Bissell. I think is how you pronounce it, defenseman. You've got a nice young mix of players at kind of 3 levels, right? You get your kind of senior, kind of your graybeards, we'll call them, like Ben and Sagan. I guess Duchesne might be in that category. And you have your Hints and your Robertson kind of in their real true blue prime. And then you got Johnston, you got Borks and Coven. That's a real nice problem to have. And it just gives you so much kind of versatility. And that's why I think, yeah, you lose a Pavelski, but it's going to be okay. Yeah, you hate to lose him, but it's going to be okay because of what you have coming right in behind him without missing a beat at all. You're not missing the beat with this team. So I'm really impressed with what management has done there over the years. Of course, really well known what the GM has been able to do and keeping this team just alive and going. And they've been right around it. We talk about kind of the last real point for this team is can they get over the hump? Because they've been around it now for a number of years. Western Conference Finals last year, Western Conference Finals 2 years ago. They were Stanley Cup finalists back in 2020. This is a door they've been knocking on for a long time. Do they now have enough in the room to finally get over that hump? And I always like to look at teams that have been right around it. Like you go back a few years when Tampa, they went on that run when they made it there 3 years in a row. But they lost a couple times. They were right around it. They lost a couple times. You look at Colorado, they kind of have to like earn it, right? They were kind of second round outs a lot and finally got their cup. Look at Florida. Now we'll talk about Florida in a couple episodes, but President's Trophy, and then they were an 8 seed, got all the way to Stanley Cup, and then of course last year won the Stanley Cup. So they were a couple of years right around that Stanley Cup conversation before they won it. And I think Dallas is in that sweet spot this year. I do. So is it Stanley time? Well, I don't want to give away the end of my season predictions video if you haven't watched that yet, but I will just say this. If you're a Dallas fan, you'll probably be pretty happy with what I have to say around that topic. I do think they are a heavy, heavy favorite in my books to win the Stanley Cup this season, and it should be a heck of a fun ride to watch as we get started. Of course, we know we have the New Jersey Buffalo games out in Prague, but Tuesday we start with the three games there on ESPN here stateside. Uh, should be a lot of fun. We're here. It's here. Season is here. So that's kind of what we have for Dallas tonight. And I don't want to bore my Dallas listeners that are out there with any Boston Bruins talk, but of course, we had a lovely day for ourselves. I think, of course, Jeremy Swayman finally signed the contract, guys. It's done. It is a done deal. 8.25 million over 8 years, 8 years and $66 million. Um, I am just so thankful we can just put this sucker to bed and stop talking about it. Um, One thing for Bruins fans out there, we do know that through all these moves, a lot of guys going on waivers today. Brian Bussey, or Brandon Bussey, I'm sorry, I call him Brandon Bussey, was put on waivers today. Of course, young goaltender, been in Providence last couple of years. Was thought to maybe be that backup to Swayman. You really hope he clears waivers. I'm not sure if he does. I think he's one of those guys that could get picked up by another team. So that will be something to watch over the next 24 hours to see if Bussy can clear waivers or if he uh, ends up down there in Providence. So, anyways, guys, thank you so much for listening. We do have the New York Rangers up next, um, either tonight or tomorrow. That's going to be out. And then, of course, you have your Stanley Cup finalists from a year ago, Edmonton and Florida. We're going to give them a full review, and we are going to slide them right in right before this season really kicks off. It's taken me this long to get there, but I think that we're going to do it. We're going to do it. So, again, thank you all so much for listening tonight. If you do like what you're hearing, please don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button down below. And until next time, be kind, show love, and God bless.